Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Campus to Career Business. Today, we're joined by four panelists, and they cover three different parts of sales. So we have sales here, or three different parts of business. I'm so sorry. So we have sales here, we have operations, and we have marketing. So I'll just go ahead and pass it off to Nikki. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicolette Biancanello. I graduated from Syracuse University with a degree in human development and family science. And after college, I started my career as a special education paraeducator before transitioning into business development and sales, which is what I continue to do today.
Nice. That is a different major than most people typically consider when they are
Sure
pursuing
is.
business.
Sure
Great.
is. Yeah,
You'll touch on that a little bit later. I'll go
absolutely.
ahead
Sure
and
will.
pass it over to Cameron.
Awesome. Yeah, great to meet you all. My name is Cam. I graduated from Dominican University, California. It's a school up in Northern California, with my degree in business. And we never really had any, I guess, specific emphases. So it was just a pretty broad degree. And then after college, I actually, through mutual connection, got a job in tech sales. And I've been in the industry ever since. My current role is I'm an account executive at a company called Hot Schedules. And we help basically streamline scheduling for the hospitality industry. And I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now. So, and loving it.
That's awesome. I love that you touched on you got your job through a connection. So we can talk about that a little bit later. Um, Melody, what about you? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Melody Martin. I currently work at Concordia University, Irvine in social media, is my main role, working in marketing and communications overall. And originally, I got my degree from Concordia University in Chicago, and I studied English as my major. And then I cast a wide net with my minors and went for communications and creative writing and theology. And then I was able to get my career started with working in publishing and then working in university advancement, and that led me to where I am now.
That's awesome. I like that trajectory that you just listed out. All right, and then last but not least, Gabe, can you tell us about
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah, nice to meet everybody. My name is Gabriel Beal, and yeah, I graduated from Arizona State University with a degree in organizational leadership. My concentration was in project management, but the fun part about my educational journey is that I graduated after I started my career. So I first went to college, like most, right out of high school, and did that for some time, and then took a fairly long break from academics and focused on starting a family and kind of taking the road less traveled, which actually better prepared me for where I'm at today. So we'll get into that here in a little bit.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. So, for my first question for you all, I just want to ask if you can briefly describe your role and a typical day in that role. Is it in person? Is it remote? Just a little bit of what your day looks like. Melody, did you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So for me, I mostly work in person in the office, and I have the best coworkers ever. So I usually drive into the office and come in, start going through my emails. Typically, I am fielding requests slash topical work related to our social media community managers. So maybe that's uploading something on YouTube, maybe that's helping someone with a transition from manager to manager. So I'll jump in with that kind of work. Later in the day, I'll usually work on a major campaign, planning something for our incoming student class. Maybe it's a video series that we want to plan out, and then I'll chunk out some time to work with student interns, and we'll go out perhaps and do some creative projects like filming. The day can be kind of a grab bag like that of various things, which keeps it really fresh all the time. And then I'll check in at the end of the day and make sure that we're on track with deadlines, and that anything that is coming up is moving through the pipeline properly. And then I'll kind of wrap up my day and do it all over again the next day.
Nice. It sounds like there's no like set this is what happens every single day. Like you get to jump from creative project to pipeline, back over to emails, and just like get to bounce it back a little bit.
Yes, very much
Mhm.
so. I've learned in this career that a lot of it is figuring out what needs to be done, prioritizing, kind of juggling all those things. So I could touch on that more later, but it's definitely part of the role that you get to do a lot of things and you also have to do a lot of things.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting.
Hmm.
What about you, Gabe? What does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so that's the good question and probably my favorite one to talk about, right? So my role now is technically hybrid. So what that looks like really depends on what project I'm involved in. Right now I'm out of state. I live in Southern California, but I'm up in Reno, Nevada, doing some new business startup activities here. And I've been coming back and forth between my home in Southern California and here for probably about 3 weeks of me being here. I actually took last week off to go on a family vacation, which was awesome. But at the conclusion of this project, my next one will be quite some time away in Los Angeles, closer to home. So I'll be working from home, which is pretty awesome with the company that I work at now because I do get to, like when school's in session, I get to take my son to school and pick him up and be involved in a lot more family activities, which is really important to me. But right now it's the grind, right? So I do start work typically before 8 in the morning, and depending on the day, I'll either split the day up or wrap up, closer to 5 or 6. But like always, starts with some caffeine and some emails, and the day kind of goes in a different direction every day, and it's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. I like that you touched on family kind of being one of the main values that you were looking for when you were finding a position. That's something I like to talk to students about a lot is as you're looking for your position when you finish school, what's something that you really want, like that you're really valuing? Is it family time? Is it work-life balance? Is it something that you just want to be passionate about, like waking up and going to work every single day? It's different for everybody. There's no wrong answer. But I like that that was kind of your route. You touched on it a little bit that you took a break from school to start your family and then came back to school, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight too that work-life balance can look different in different stages of my life. What I expected and wanted, hoped for, all that with work-life balance has changed. And although right now it doesn't seem like it could be the most ideal, right, with a lot of travel, it actually has put me in a better position to do the things I wanted to accomplish with my family. So it's worked out well. I'm probably in the best place I've been with work-life balance at this point in my career. So it's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's great. What about you, Nikki? What's your typical day look like?
Yeah, so my typical day is can look different, every single day. So I work with investment firms and I help them grow their businesses. So a lot of my day is spent meeting people and learning about their business and trying to understand their challenges. I mostly, like everybody else here, work in the office, but also in a remote hybrid. So it's a hybrid structure. Um, and so I might be at home researching companies, or I might be out meeting with the executives, or attending an industry conference over in California where you guys are, or even in New York, or just generally just speaking with clients about their goals. One thing I do really enjoy about being in a sales role is that it's very people orientated. Every conversation is different, and I'm constantly learning about new businesses and industries. Um, and one thing I do like to say is I spend a lot less time selling than people would think. Most of the job is
Okay.
really just listening and asking questions and figuring out how to help somebody solve a problem. And my career and what I studied in school really translated well into this, which is surprising. A lot of people might think, but most of the job really is just listening and asking questions. So that's what the day to day looks like for me.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think my initial thought when I think of sales is active listening. I think when I think of sales is, oh, they're knocking on my
Talking.
door. They're also emailing me and they're calling me
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're doing all
yeah.
these things. But yeah, I guess if you have like a good salesperson, you want to talk to them. So
Right. Yeah, you want to talk to people you like, you want to talk to people you trust. So that's
yeah,
really important.
yeah. All right. Cam, what about you? How can you describe your typical day?
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess I'm the only one here, but I do work a fully remote job. So some people love it, some people don't. I'm one of those people who do really like it. I guess like one of the benefits of being fully remote is the schedule can be really flexible. Like you I guess have more flexibility to do things during the day, things of that nature. The downside would be like just I'm someone who does like interacting with people in person. Like I was used to it throughout college, all that stuff. So that was something that took getting used to. But for the most part, like I would say I love where I'm at right now when it comes to being virtually remote. What my workday looks like is normally I'm on the inside sales team when it comes to our company. So essentially, like for our scheduling platform, if you're like a new restaurant or a hotel, whatever it might be, and you're interested in learning more about the platform, they would book through the website and that would get linked directly to my calendar. So my day to day is waking up, seeing what meetings I have, like client meetings I have on the books. And then in between that, I'm usually just making dials to either current customers, like checking in on our current relationships, things of that nature. But yeah, majority of the day I would say is just spent talking to clients, which is like super great. I think that's something that I enjoy. I love talking to people. And then like Nikki said, like the blessing of sales is like and I've actually used our platform in the past when I worked at Chick-fil-A, the scheduling platform. So it's pretty cool being able to help business owners and GMs and things make their day-to-days easier. And yeah, it's just helping people's lives get easier through the platform. So it's
Mhm.
super cool.
That's awesome. It seems like both of you that are in sales have just like a heart for helping people, and that's seems to be like something that is necessary for sales. Is you just got to understand like, okay, what's the problem? How do we fix it? And just kind of keep it going in conversations like that.
Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So I have another question for you all. A few of you already touched on this a little bit, but my question was, what was your major and how did it prepare you for maybe your first job out of college or maybe transitioning into your current role? Nikki, did you want to get us started with that? Your major
Yeah, I'd
seemed
love to.
very interesting. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, no, of course. So yeah, my major, as I touched on, wasn't business related at all, but it truly taught me the skills that I use every single day in the professional world and in my personal day-to-day life. So whether I was teaching students or working with clients today, it focuses the skills that I used from studying human development and family sciences focuses heavily on communication and understanding people, building relationships and problem solving. So I really didn't realize at the time how transferable those skills would be. Um, but the key thing is that your major doesn't necessarily define your career, right? The skills that you develop on the way is often more important than the title of your degree. So that's really the skills that you're learning right now, you can really help you in all different aspects of your life. And you may not know what they are right now, and that's okay. So yeah.
That's awesome. I like that lesson that like your major doesn't define your career down the road.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Melody, what about you? What was your major and kind of how did it prepare you for your role now?
Yeah, so as I touched on a little bit before, I majored in English literature, but I also minored in communications and creative writing and theology. So combining a bunch of different areas that
Yeah.
I knew I was
Wide
interested.
net.
I knew that I wanted to, yes, do something in the one of those areas or something that combined a lot of those areas, which my current role does. And being able to study different subjects and apply myself has really helped with precision and attention to detail, which is really important in the marketing communications, which we call Marcom, the Marcom
Mhm.
world. Really important. And it's also really important to have a analytical problem solving brain that's happening at the same time as your creative brain, because the goal in marketing is to communicate with people in a way that gets them excited about who you are, tells your story well, connects the right person to you. So that's pretty exciting and creative. But to do that right, you have to have the analytical side of your brain running. So a lot of what I do day to day Maybe I'm attending like an Anaheim Ducks game where we're the presenting sponsor and I'm filming and I'm getting people cheering and screaming. And then I'm sitting down and using analytics and data on our previous content to figure out how I can use that to create storytelling that connects people to us. So
Hmm.
all of everything that I learned prepared me for how to think in this role. And it also helped me connect when I was interviewing for jobs and they asked me like, "Hey, what did you study in college?" And maybe they have one aspect in common with me. It gives me another thing to share and talk about.
Yeah. I feel like being able to dabble in like a couple different things because you had a major, three minors, like
Yeah,
you're able to hold a conversation with anybody when it came time to interview.
right.
Hmm. Right. Cameron, what about you? What was your major? I know you touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah, so I graduated with a degree in business administration. And like full transparency, I feel like just being in like being in like the industry and the role like really like was like the biggest thing to help my like professional growth. However, like from college, and I hated it in the moment, but I feel like all those like presentations that I had to give, like public speaking, all that stuff, like really did pay off in the end. And it really just kind of helped get comfortable speaking in front of others because I feel like in the professional world that is in a lot of the sense like your day to day. So I feel like just being able to like clearly communicate, listen, all that stuff. That's definitely something I took from my major and the classes that I took. Would probably be just like the communication classes, things of that nature.
thank you so much because the amount of students that come and say gen eds don't make sense to me. I don't know why I have to take them. I just want to focus on my major classes. I'm like, in every single role, it doesn't matter what your major is, what the career you're going after, you will have to give a presentation at some
Right.
point. You will
Yeah.
have to speak in front of other people, and you need to be able to get your thoughts across to others, whether it's verbally, whether it's written. Like you have to be able to do that. That's why you
Right.
take gen eds. So
Yeah.
thank you. It's
Yeah.
okay
I
to hate
was
them in the moment.
Yeah,
Like,
and I know I had to emphasize that because I know like when I was a student, I hated doing it. It was like it made me so uncomfortable. But then I think coming on the other end of it, like it's just like I'm thankful for it. I'm grateful for it. Would I want to do it again? No, but yeah, it definitely paid off.
man, that's so awesome. Thanks for saying that. Gabe, so you had initially started as one major and then jumped to a different major. So how did that story go?
Yeah, you're gonna have to forgive me. This takes a little bit to explain, but yeah. So coming out of high school, I think that like a lot of people, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to do nothing. So I set off to figure out what it is I wanted to do, and I thought I'd figured that out probably about 15 times along the way, and almost none of that actually wound up being what I got involved in later for my career. So no, when I first went to college, was at a California state school, and I thought I'm for sure going to be a firefighter and study forest management and fire ecology. And so I went to an environmental, program at a school that later turned into a Cal Poly that was really focused on this. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be what I want to do. But the full transparency part is I only did that because I was trying to go into the military, and my folks made me a deal. They said try like a year of school, and if you like don't like it, then you can go in the military. I think what they were trying to say is that they weren't going to allow that to really happen until I was 18. So I would turn 18 right at the start of when I left to go to school, and I had to commit. And so we were. It was pretty evident once I got there that I did not belong in environmental science at all. The academic structure of not just gen ed, but just the major specific classes, even though we're talking level 100 to 200 level early entry level academics into the major. I did not really perform all that awesome. I didn't really enjoy what I was doing. I found myself wanting to, not attend courses and things, and I was like, wow, I gotta do something different. So I committed to doing the full year of that before making up my mind that I was not going in the military and I was not going to be in environmental science. So I wound up, like most of us, going to the admissions office more than once and trying to figure out what I would do next. And I was looking for something a little bit easier academically to bring my grades up so that I had better opportunity to prepare myself maybe if I wanted to go to graduate school down the road. So I knew I was excelling in business management related courses, a couple of my different electives in different areas, communications and English and things like that, right? So I didn't wind up electing for any of those other than business management. So I switched my major to small business management because they were offering that at the time with a minor, something to do with economics. It was like the macroeconomics of, I don't know, something like that. And then I did the best I've ever done academically and career pivot, right? I decided I'm going to go home. The school I went to was like 14 hours away from where I grew up. I thought that was an awesome choice at 19, 18, 17 years old. And yeah, I came home. And during that time, I thought I'd be able to transfer a little bit easier, but some of my electives were a little messed up and things like that. So I went to a junior college and they make you declare something or go undeclared. So business management was the declaration at the junior college, no minors or anything, obviously, and did that for a while and started my career. And that looked like being a diesel mechanic. I took an apprenticeship as a diesel mechanic doing manual labor. I joined a labor union and everything. And I did that for quite some time while also kind of being in school. And then I stopped going to school altogether for a few years and then wound up full circle as an adult with a home and a family. Life had happened. And I had already made my way into a management role at the company I previously worked for. And I realized that I wanted to be able to share with my family that, hey, I was the first one in my family to get a bachelor's degree. So kind of took that path, went back to school with an online program with Arizona State and focused on organizational leadership, which I thought was awesome because it takes a very strong business management. It's almost the same curriculum for like 3/4 of the program. And then you focus on human behavior and less, like business related courses and stuff. And I realized the piece I struggled with the most in my career in business up until that point was the finesse of being in operations. How do you talk to sales in the morning and then talk with operations in the afternoon and then get on a conference call with everybody? And how do you bridge that gap? And then most importantly, how do you get people to work for you, right? So I'd gotten promoted at my previous job to be in charge of running an entire facility. So everybody in the building wound up working for me. And I don't think I knew the first thing about how to, not how to manage people. I thought, business school does a pretty good job of giving you that, but I didn't know how to get people to want to work for me or with me on achieving a common goal for the business. And in a Fortune 500, there's a lot of discussions on how to get everybody in line. So the human behavior and organization piece touches a lot more in psychology. And that kind of gave me everything I didn't have from the traditional business background. And lo and behold, my team synergy focused a lot on just all coming together to accomplish great things. And we had some really big wins in my last little bit of time there. And then parlaying that into what I do now with national accounts. Yeah, I definitely going to be working with high level executives at some of our larger national accounts or be, touching with meetings like this, students coming about, to join the career field. Had I not learned a lot more about human behavior and how we do things and why we think the way we think and touching kind of like everybody that already came before me, there's a lot to be said for taking the road less traveled. There is nothing wrong with not doing what you thought you're going to do. And most of us probably wound up happier in the end by not doing the first thing we thought we were going to do as young adults. So there's plenty of room. I know today's leaders are really looking forward to the people who are coming up behind us because you guys are doing things that, we've once done a little bit, but now we get to see it from, a different perspective. And it's really exciting.
That's awesome. That's really inspiring that you were coming from just a completely different major because your parents said, no, you have to do this. Like it was just kind of that way to get you where you wanted to go. And I have that conversation with students a lot is like, okay, well, are you here for you or are you here for your parents? Like, or like who's driving this conversation while you're sitting here with me in the office? And another thing you kind of touched on was just kind of leaning into your natural given strengths, right? So we talk a lot about like vocation at Concordia and how we're all called to do something. We're all called to be here, and it's best to just kind of lean into those natural strengths because God gave you those for a reason. And it's best to just kind of why fight the path? Like if there's gonna be someone's guiding you there, right? So you kind of touched on that a little bit. That's great. Um, I have a couple more questions, but my next one is, was there an extracurricular activity, or maybe an internship or a department on campus that maybe helped you the most while you were trying to figure out what it is you wanted to do, or just kind of help develop skills that were required for the industry you were going into? Um, Cam, did you want to take that one?
Sure. I honestly like, and this is like full transparency, I feel like soccer was like the best thing that ever happened to me when it came to prepping me for uh like sales and I guess like this current role. And I feel like the reason being is like the guy that got me into my first company was like a connection through soccer. But then skills from soccer was like being able to develop like leadership skills like as I got into my junior and senior year of like really trying to be a leader for like the younger guys on the team, and then also just like communication skills, like being coachable. Like I feel like that's huge in like my current role, is like if you want to grow, like you have to be coachable. And I feel like that's big in sales in general, is like it doesn't really matter like what you're selling, just being able to like adapt and be coachable for your leaders, like that's huge. And then for your other colleagues, like being a good role model and being an example for them and help lead them, that's huge as well. And I feel like that's all stuff that I learned through uh playing soccer, which was awesome.
Yeah, leadership and coachability, those are the things that we hear employers are looking for the most is they'll hire someone, they can teach you skills, but like, are you willing to adjust? Like if you're given feedback, like that's kind of the biggest thing. And like with sports, you're constantly having to
Right.
adjust, constantly having to beat yourself, like things like that.
Right. Yeah. And another thing too is like in regards to like know your audience too, and that's like something with soccer too, or like I guess it comes along with leadership, is like, hey, maybe the way you coach one person isn't gonna work the same way with maybe another person, right? Everybody takes
Hmm.
like feedback differently. And so being able to I guess understand that is huge as well.
Nice. That's great advice. Melody, what about you?
Yeah, I when I was in college, I knew generally what I wanted to do, and it's such a big field in just language, marketing, communications. There's so many little niches within it that it's hard to say exactly. It's not like when you become a doctor or a lawyer and you get exactly on that track, and then when you're done with the degree, that's the job that you get.
Hmm.
So knowing that, I think there were a couple key things that really helped me eventually start my career. And a lot of it had to do with kind of just like scaffolding opportunities. So for example, I was a resident assistant, and through that role, I was able to meet someone who invited me to apply for a professional conference. So I applied and was accepted and went to that. And then after that, I had a conversation with a faculty member who was also involved with that organization that recommended me for my first job. And saying yes to my study abroad experience in college and having that on my resume actually helped me connect with my future employer who had done the same study abroad program. And we had a lot to talk about and connected right away. So for me, it was just saying yes to the right experiences, things that I wanted to do, and that kept pushing me forward, not losing that momentum of um, saying no to something just because I was afraid.
Hmm.
And ultimately, just realizing that whether it's, something really concrete like a professional conference, or maybe a little bit more nebulous like a soccer team, or for me, like the specific study abroad house that I went to, having like a organization or a group to be a part of, whether it's a sorority or any kind of academic club, the more that you can just build connections with people and the more that you can build something that other people can relate to, the more networking is going to be easy for you. And the more when you go out into the world, you're going to have things to say about yourself. Other people are going to understand key aspects of you that you won't have to explain. So I would say it was a handful of things that I just kind of kept saying yes to because I knew that I wanted to be part of it. And being part of it really opened up a lot of doors.
Yeah, I feel like you saying yes to all the opportunities that you were able to say yes to opened all these doors because you were building your network. It's how you got your first job. And like going to conferences is definitely a big way to just meet different people that can, you never know. You never know who's going to be able to help you down the road, who's going to be able to kind of be like your letter of reference or be like the person that's going to pull you up with them because they have a connection or they know like their mom knows somebody, like things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time, but it's definitely how it worked out.
Yeah. That's awesome. Nikki, what about you? Were there any extracurricular activities, maybe an internship, something that helped you along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know internships are very important. I actually didn't do an internship, but what I did was I volunteered. And I would tell students to not underestimate those volunteer and, like Cameron said, those leadership positions and maybe even a part-time job. I had a capstone. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody does. Yeah, so I had a
Hmm.
capstone at my end of my senior year, and it was to volunteer somewhere and in the human development and family science field. And I decided to work at a place called Elmcrest Children's Center. And what they do is they support children and families who are facing like emotional, behavioral, and developmental challenges. And to this day, it is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my whole life. I think about it almost every day. And everything that I did there has shaped who I am. Like I know I touched on this before, but it shaped who I am as a person and ultimately who I am in my job. And I know this isn't exactly something that you asked, but I think the best experience I ever did, and this wasn't in college, this was right after college, was making the decision to change careers. That was probably the most impactful decision and experience that I've ever had. Going from educations to sales was really intimidating because I was starting over completely in a new industry and I had no experience. And lots of people might think like, oh, I studied human development. How can I change? How can I get a job in sales if I don't have the experience that translates to that? But little do you know is that's not what necessarily what employers are looking for. Like they care more about what you've done and what you've learned from it, not just what's listed on your transcript. And all of those things that I did in college, that volunteer work, those capstones, it being an athlete, like Cameron said, playing soccer, it all translated really, really well into the world of sales. And you might not even realize those things that you're doing now will. But yeah, so just doing that volunteer work and yeah, it was really impactful. So yeah.
That's awesome. So when you were shifting careers like from like human development over to sales, what was the thought process like to jump to sales?
The thought process was, I still want to work with people, right? I love working with
Hmm.
people. I love making a difference. And my thought process was, okay, let me try working with bigger people and seeing how that works well, right?
Yeah.
And
You're like 18 and
and
up.
I have
That's what I'm going for.
right, exactly. I'm like, that's believe it or not, it's pretty similar, right? You'd be surprised. But yeah, so yeah, I think I got a little bit lost of the question, but that's really yeah.
No, you're all good. I wanted to hear all
Yeah,
about it. So happy you're able to
yeah,
share.
yeah.
Um, Gabe, I was gonna alter the question just a little bit because I know that you were attending ASU for org leadership while you are already in your career. So I'm just curious what it looked like to be actively applying everything you were learning in your classes to your work, and like, did you see a shift or a change in like how you were showing up for work?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So, what's fun about being in school while you have a career and multiple other responsibilities to juggle is similar to early stage undergrad when you're coming out of high school and you're being relatively young. We kind of experience all the same things from a different point of view in life, right? So there's sleep deprivation, there's test anxiety, there's all these things that I had once experienced in my life. And then I still have, I was having them then too, going back to school so much later in life. But, I also had, at that time, my son was about 3. So I had a 3-year-old who didn't sleep every night through the night. And, sometimes I had classwork to do and things, it was a lot to juggle. And I don't know that I recommend, trying to juggle all those things. But for me, I was up to the challenge because I was out for a bigger purpose, right? I wanted to kind of prove a point that you can, finish things that you set out to finish at different stages in your life. And I knew I was capable of it because of my support network. Now, getting into the coursework and how that was relevant to what I was doing at work. Organizational leadership, as we kind of already touched on, has a lot to do with how people do things, like different styles of working, different styles of leadership. And in the industry that I worked in at that time is similar to the industry I work in now, in that a lot of leadership decisions are really top down, right? Especially the big Fortune 500, you got a board, and then it's shareholders, and then kind of comes down to the lower ranking folks in the field. So I would try basically active case studies, like we'd be learning something at school, and I'd say, okay, I like that. I think that's my leadership style, and I think a lot of the people who work for this company under my leadership are this type of person or that type of person. So I started branching out how I would structure assignments for certain folks and do different things. And like most of the time, academically, what you learn about human behavior is pretty well studied, and not surprisingly, you get some more desirable results out of working with people's style of how they like to be spoken to or assigned things. And what I really learned during that time as an adult in this program is that micromanagement and things that I think our generation's really trying to get rid of in the future workplaces of America and beyond is not the leadership style that most people are the most comfortable achieving their results in. So I really got to learn how to like custom tailor what I was hoping to accomplish using an entire team based on catering specifically to what people needed from me. So I think I pretty much decided that I was a servant leader. And I think I spoke on that, maybe at some time in the past, but I like to work for the people who actually work for me, because the end all results are that we are all trying to deliver something to our organization and pave the path for, EBITDA and things that are, more on the business side, right? But if you like going to work and you like the people you work with and work for, it's a lot more fun to do your job and have a career, right? So I figured I'm going to be working for a long time, as are a lot of us. I'd better figure out how to love my job, like my job, and get up every day with a purpose. And Arizona State's program with organizational leadership, they make you pick an emphasis. There is capstones. There's a lot with that, but they encouraged me actively. Full transparency. Like my faculty there was like, hey, you should try this and then get back to us on how that worked. And matter of fact, if you record it, you don't have to do a discussion post, because we know that, you also worked 10-hour day and then had a 2-hour commute and you had all this stuff going on. So I was actually able to leverage my career to kind of make coursework a lot easier than it would have been had I been 18 without, all that stuff going on. And I did that to my advantage several times. So also, fun fact, I did better academically, much better academically, coming back into school later, because just how you understand things changes a lot, right? You get related to life experiences you never had before and things of that nature. So to my success of today, it didn't take my degree to get the job that I have. It did open up a lot of doors. The position I'm in now was a reference, from a guy I worked with in my previous company. So there's definitely something to be said for networking. But what it did for me, with the piece of paper, right, was teach me so much more about myself and what I wanted to accomplish in life. And it was a much bigger thing than just my career, right? Had a lot to do with my family, had a lot to do with not giving up on my my efforts and my goals that I had set out for myself. And, really it was quite a good time, and it's still a lot of fun to this day. So,
Wow. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're able to take it and like I feel like it was the psychology part that you needed to start kind of growing and learning how to work like as a team and everything like that. So that's really cool that you're able to take that. Awesome. So my next question is we all learn a lot in the classroom, right? So sometimes though, once you're actually out in the field, there's like hidden skills that start to come up. What would be one hidden skill that you didn't exactly learn in the classroom, but that you learned along the way? Maybe something that was told you like by like a coworker or something like that. Melody, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. What comes to mind immediately for this question is a mindset of self-project management.
Hmm.
When you're in school, a lot is sort of spoon-fed to you as far as, okay, now you do this, now you do this. And if you don't do this, and if it doesn't get submitted on time, you're going to get an F. And that mindset can be helpful in your career in certain ways. But for me, I really experienced a process of learning how to say, okay, this is something that I've spent 2 hours trying to figure out. I don't think it's going to happen today. We're not doing that. Or I'm going to go tell my supervisor, hey, that software is not working. And she'll say, okay, we're going to postpone it. Or maybe I look at my workload for the day and I see a request in my email from someone who needs something that is going to rank right at the bottom of that list. And so I write back and say, hey, I have a lot going on. My work schedule is impacted by this and this. Can you wait for that for 2 weeks? So just learning that not everything is urgent. Not everything is going to be spoon-fed to me from what steps to do next. And then that mindset really helped clarify for me and create space where I could prioritize what was really important, feel like I was hitting deadlines and being really on top of what I needed to be on top of, and realizing that as I'm self-managing myself, I can send if I'm relying on other people for feedback or for assets, I can somewhere in that process say, hey, I need to have this by this date. So I'm tracking along with it. No one told me that I had to do that, but now that I do that, it's such a valuable skill in a field where everything does have a deadline attached to it. There is a campaign trajectory that I'm expected to follow. But it's a lot of layers all at once. So
Hmm.
juggling that and realizing that I have the power to decide when to take things on that are not already on my list and how to get other people on board with the schedule that I'd like to proceed with was really a step up from that entry level kind of marketer to someone who's able to handle an entire campaign from end to end, with things kind of being thrown at you in between.
Man, I can really relate to that. I know my first roll out of college, my biggest feedback from my supervisor was, Catherine, not everything's urgent. Not everything has to be done right away. Like, let's try to learn how to prioritize tasks. And it was something that I didn't learn in school. I had to kind of learn that as I went, like, okay, this task that's being asked of me by someone who's kind of equal to me versus, oh, like this VP. Well, obviously, this one has to come first, but it wasn't something that was told. So I was just kept doing things kind of as they came. But yeah, it's definitely something you learn on the job.
Yeah.
Mhm. Nice. Nikki, what about you? Maybe like a hidden skill that you found in your roles.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say probably communication and asking questions, right? So lots of people are scared to ask questions, and that goes both ways. So if you don't know something, it's okay not to know something, but you have to be willing to put your hand up, tap the person next to you and say, hey, I don't know. Can you help me do this? If you
Hmm.
don't do that and you're not and you're afraid to get yourself out there or because you're worried what somebody might think, you're just hindering yourself from learning and growing. So the most important thing I think you can do is being okay with not knowing everything and asking those questions so you can know something. People you'd be surprised when I'm on a call with somebody who could be a client or a prospect, and I say, "Hey, can you say that again? I don't understand." Instead of pretending like I know, it goes a longer way, not knowing everything, and it's okay not to know everything. So and ask those questions. So that is probably one of the most important things I learned, especially in the sales world, because you're not going to have somebody over your shoulder saying, "Hey, you have to do this," or "Hey, that essay is due at 12 p.m. on Friday." It's You have to be able to manage your own workload and, ask those questions and communicate really well. So I think those are really important skills that I learned, that help me in my day to day.
Yeah, I like how you touched on just like the importance of being okay not knowing because you're not an expert. No one's an expert going into a new field. No one's an expert kind of in their day to day until they've become an expert. Like it takes a
Right,
lot of
right.
time to become an expert. So just like having that humility to say like, "Hey, I don't know." It also just builds trust. It's like, "Okay,
Yeah,
then I'll anticipate the next time you don't know something, you're going to ask."
yeah.
And it just helps with communication. It just makes it a little bit more streamlined.
Absolutely. And I ask questions every single day. I probably
Mhm.
don't know more than what I do know. And that's okay.
Uh-huh.
That's life, So
That's like
absolutely.
you're figuring it out.
Right, exactly.
Nice. Gabe, what about you? Is there a hidden skill that you've been able to learn along the way?
Yeah, so I think more than a hidden skill, I've like started to become a lot more well-rounded. I think I was really good at a couple of things and okay at a couple of things, and I started to get really good at more things and okay at less things. But time management's really, really huge. I struggled with that most of my academic career and then even earlier on in my professional career. I thought that because I could like grind things out really, really well and deliver a pretty solid product that somehow everybody would look through that and just be like, yeah, we don't care how it got done, but it got done and it's pretty good. But I realized that by giving myself more time, I know we've pretty much all touched on it. Melody did a fantastic job touching on just knowing when to say like I can spend a lot of time focusing on how to not be able to do something with something I can't control. So I focus more, I guess, to sum it up on controlling the controllables and getting better at communicating the things that are out of my control. And lo and behold, if you act and behave a certain way in leadership, often enough, that becomes something people are expected to hear from you. So if you're really good at saying, I don't have the bandwidth to take this on right now, I need to move it, like, especially in project management, there's always multiple things, deadlines and stuff happening all at the same time. If you wait till last minute to drop the bombshell that some of the stuff's not going to get done because there is early roadblocks that trying to figure out in the middle of the night and make it look like it doesn't happen, so we're so polished, it doesn't always bode well, and it took me a very long time to learn how to do that very well. I'm getting better at it. There's several mornings like yesterday where I'm at home in the morning in another state in that afternoon, and somewhere in between, multiple meetings happened and flights and rental cars and hotels and all this crazy stuff. And if I didn't know how to manage my time very well, I would have failed a long time ago. So I think the professional time management and controlling the controllables are the two, I'd say.
I like that. I wrote it down, controlling the controllables. I feel like that's something that can definitely get overwhelming, especially when you have so many deadlines that you're just constantly having to meet and manage and talk to this person about this one that's coming up, and you just have so much going on. But you can only control what you control, and being able to say, I'm overwhelmed. I feel like it's could be really vulnerable for a lot of people, but as a manager, you'd rather know that someone's overwhelmed, see where you can help, especially as a servant leader, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and the funny things like post-it notes and things from, times of undergrad still exist and still get used, and then sending a text to yourself or an email reminding you not to drop the ball on things. I
Mhm.
still use some of those skills to this day as well. So, um, you know, lessons learned along the way, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Cam, what about you? Hidden skill? Anything in your industry?
Yeah, and this is something I know like Gabe brought this term up a little bit earlier, and I feel like it's something I developed in my entry level sales role, but it's like I feel like servant leadership has been something that like I've learned to like I don't know, like I just like try to embody and I feel like it's been super, super impactful on, I guess, like career growth as well. Like I feel like it does go unnoticed, or it does go noticed. And like an example would be like, I mean, in a lot of these entry level like sales positions, it's really, really brutal. It's like cold calling, cold emailing, all that stuff, and there's a lot of highs and lows. And what you have to understand is like, hey, as much as easy it is to just like sit behind your desk or sit behind your computer and be in your own bubble, you're kind of going through the same thing as all your like coworkers and colleagues and stuff. And so really understanding and being able to like speak up and figure out, hey, listen, if this isn't working, bringing the team together and saying, hey, this isn't working, like what is working, and kind of bouncing ideas off each other and really trying to keep like the whole team afloat is like something really big. It's really, really helps with like retention, as well as like team camaraderie. Like I feel like my previous role as well as at this company, like that's something that's honestly made me fall in love with both these companies I've been at, is just how close the teams are. And I feel like it's that mindset of like, hey, it's either like it's kind of like we're all in this together and we all want to help each other like succeed and eat and all that stuff. And I feel like that's something that's been really, really great. And something that I feel like I've just kind of learned throughout these roles.
Yeah, I feel like a good working environment, a good like working team, cohesive team can make a huge difference whether or not like you're going to enjoy
Absolutely.
yourself or not. Especially in an entry level role, it's nice to know that the person sitting next to you has your back and is going to try to help
Yeah.
you because you're also willing to do the same for them.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so with the last 10 minutes, I just wanted to do like a quick reflection question. So undergraduates will likely be listening here, and so if you were an undergrad graduating tomorrow, what would be one piece of advice that you could give them to kind of break into the roles that you guys have been able to kind of build in your careers? Gabe, did you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I would just say the workforce is more ready for you to be here than you would imagine. Like we're at my level of leadership, I'm still got many years left in my career. And we talk often about the people coming after us doing the roles that we used to do or didn't do very well that still need, fresh ideas and mindsets coming into them. And then just understanding that everybody has their own path. It all looks different, as you've heard on this panel. And you can pivot several different times in your career and still have a really good time doing that. So if you focus bigger picture on what you would like to accomplish throughout your life, you're going to have a lot more fun on the journey. If you set really narrow deadlines of, hey, by the time I'm this age, I want to earn this money and only live in this place or whatever, it can add some stress to your career that you probably don't need to have coming out of undergraduate, right? So just understand that you've got so much time to get to where you want to go, and everybody's path looks different, and we're excited for you guys to get there. So that's all.
Nice. That sounds really encouraging. Melody, what about you coming up in marketing?
Yeah, I would say one thing that you could kind of condense into a piece of advice is that there are sort of two rules that I think of when it comes to growth, and that the first one is that you get better at what you practice. And the second one is that everything is practice. So in your daily life, everything you're doing from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, you are in the practice of life. So hold yourself accountable to be the person that you want to be when it comes to those small decisions. So when you're thinking about how you want to present yourself in how you dress or how you want to speak to the barista at the cafe, are equally important in a lot of ways to how you develop like hard skills and come into your career. Everything that you do, whether it's like writing an email, it'll just continue to reinforce who you are. And I really do believe that if you kind of think there's some sort of secret sauce or magic out there, it's probably found in the work that you're avoiding. So whatever it is that you don't want to do the most is probably the secret sauce that you think is out there. So if you push yourself a little bit to become that person and challenge yourself to do that hard work, you might find yourself a little bit surprised at how easy and welcoming a lot of these spaces become because you've trained yourself to not just be, a template of such a role, but you've become a person who can step into a lot of different roles dynamically and very well.
I like that like you're practicing life. Like
Yeah.
becoming a dynamic individual is what it's going to take in order to kind of grow, not just like personally, but professionally. And so why not incorporate it in both parts?
Yeah, and I think it will future-proof you. If you get laid off one day or something happens, it's not like, oh, I put all my eggs into the basket of just this one opportunity. You've developed yourself, and that's really important. So I know that this is very hot topic lately, but I would say when it comes to using AI, challenge yourself to only use AI when it's something that's not taking away from the investment you're putting into yourself, because that hard work of doing the thinking and developing those little skills each and every day is going to make you that person who's going to beat out the robot every time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a hot topic right now, the career center. I think we talk about it all the time. Cameron, what about you? What's a piece of advice you would give to an undergrad hoping to get into sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So like kind of two-part question. Like one, when it comes to sales, I would say like the number one thing is like be curious. Like do not be afraid to ask questions that other people like, or it's just be curious, like 100%. Don't be afraid to ask those questions that might make you uncomfortable, right? It'll always help you just learn more and allow you to get better at listening and just kind of grow into the role. Advice for like an undergrad, like I still wish I could go back and tell myself this to this day as an undergrad. But it would be like use your resources. So at my school, the head of career development, like she probably still remembers me to this day because I probably gave her gray hairs and made her pull her hair out because she was bugging me for multiple years to like start getting ahead, do internships, never did any internships, anything like that. I was like, oh, it's all gonna work out, all that stuff. And I definitely could have probably made my life a lot easier by like listening and using those resources. I remember it wasn't until I finally got my first interview and I only had like a couple weeks left in school that I finally came to her and I was like, hey, I need help. I need this advice. And she's like, really, dude? But use the resources, use Catherine, use the career development resources that your school offers and provides for you because all they want is the best for you and to help you be a better person and also just develop in your professional career as well. So yeah, just don't be afraid to use them. Like I think my thing was like I was just like always like afraid to ask or use those resources when it's like so silly. It's like they're here for you and they're not going to hurt you. They're always going to just help you in your professional trajectory. So use them.
Nice. Yeah, because I remember students that have left, and your advisor definitely remembers you because I ran into her and she said, yes, I do remember him. He was in my office frantic. I said, yep, probably. Nice. Nikki, what about you? We'll close it out with you.
Yeah, no, that was great, Cameron. I really like that. My one thing I would tell myself is I look at myself at 22 years old as a kid, and I would say that I don't need to have my entire career mapped out. I'm 22, just focus on learning, building those relationships, and doing good work. And the next opportunity is usually going to come from one of those three things. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that very few people are ends up exactly where they want to be. Life, we all have these plans and life doesn't necessarily care about those plans, and that's okay. Um, One thing I will tell myself, I wish I did tell myself too, was to make a LinkedIn. So make a LinkedIn, build those relationships, make those connections, do that before you graduate college. Because LinkedIn, I found all of my jobs through LinkedIn. It's such a great resource when speaking of resources, to build those connections and even apply to jobs and find people. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. as well. I'm happy to make those connections. So if I could go back, that's 100% what I would tell myself. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you all being here today and hearing from these panelists that we have. Again, there's no clear-cut, cookie-cutter way to do this. We're all just trying to figure out how to build up our careers, build up our industries each and every way. So thank you all for being here and appreciate everything. Okay, bye.
thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
everyone.
Catherine.